What's up? Welcome back to the Rusty Toolbox. It's been a little while. Got some updates. The BMW is great. All set, running well. A little dirty. Been putting a lot of miles on it. But I've got a new project. It is a 1979 Yamaha XS750 that I just got from my cousin for a pretty good price. You know, he wouldn't come down too much on it, but pretty excited about it. This will be my second Yamaha XS750 that I've had. Second 79 750 actually. Gonna be turning this into a little cafe racer, sort of. Yeah, should be. Yeah, pretty much a cafe racer. But pretty cool. I'm very excited. It needs a lot of work. It's going to look very different when I'm done with it. But hopefully, in the next couple episodes, it'll be all done. Stay tuned. Got the headers and exhaust off of the bike. It's going to be one of my first projects on this thing. There are some cracks. I believe these are the stock headers. The stock exhaust. So there's some cracks here that I'm going to be sealing back up. Just welding back up. And then I'm going to be doing a black pipe wrap all the way down, you know, to where the muffler begins. And then it's just a matter of figuring out where I want to mount it up. But basically, yeah, got the headers off. This is just going to be a little project while I wait for a lot of the other parts to get here. Just because I can do it now. So, going to be tearing it all apart, replacing a lot of stuff, rebuilding the forks, trimming down that front fender. The engine is good. It's got decent spark plugs, ignition. Going to be rebuilding the carburetors because they are. You can see they've got pods on them now. But I don't think it was rejetted. So I'm going to rejet the carbs for a little more fuel since it's getting a lot more air. Let's see. All the controls are going to be different. New handlebars, new grips, new switches. Gonna do new gauges. Gonna drop the front end down a little bit after I rebuild the forks, so it sits a little lower in the front because it's also gonna sit a little bit lower here in the back. Got some shorter springs, new rear springs. Gonna be cutting the back off right about here. I've got a cafe seat coming. It's a one-piece seat, tail section all in one. It's a black and brown, so the color scheme of this bike is going to eventually be, it's going to be like a forest dark green, like a British racing green or dark green with black and brown. And then, like I said, new headlight signals, a new Daytona handlebar. So yeah, a lot of stuff. But first, since I'm waiting on a bunch of parts to get here, I ordered online. I'm going to work on the headers, and then also going to take apart the carburetor, clean that out. Like I said, going to rejet that. I need to see what jets are in there right now because it definitely needs a bigger main jet. Probably go up a shim on the needle, but it actually runs decent. It just has a tiny bit too much air, so I think it'll be a combination of rejetting and then maybe blocking up a little bit of the pods. But yeah, it's great. It's very squishy right now. The tires were a little low. They're new tires. They were a little low on air pressure, and then yeah, the front forks are completely toast in terms of in terms of the fork oil and everything. But once we get all that stuff rebuilt, the rear end's good. The front brakes need to be bled. Yeah, there's basically no front brake right now. But everything else is pretty good. Like I said, the major thing is those cracked headers. Going to be getting rid of the seat and everything. Going to take off the tank. Probably do that right now, actually. Take off the tank. Going to strip it down to the bare metal. I don't see any major rust. It's actually pretty good shape, and I think internally it's not too bad either. But I'll probably dump it out, clean out the tank on the interior, and get ready for a repaint. So, lots of little stuff, nothing too crazy, but it should be pretty cool when it's all done. I'm using some exhaust crack repair. I was going to weld these cracks in the headers, but the walls of the headers are so thin, I feel like I'd probably just blow through them with my welder. So with this sealer, the exhaust seal stuff, and then the pipe wrap over the top of that, I think we'll have a pretty decent seal. I don't expect it to be perfect, but it'll definitely be better than what it is right now, which is just, it's almost like having open headers. So getting this stuff on there. It looks like it hardens up pretty quickly. So we'll see. We'll see how this works out. I think that's the only spot I really need it. And then I'm going to pipe wrap from here all the way down to about right there on the muffler. And yeah, should give us a pretty decent seal. So with any pipe wrap, you give it a good soak, some water, and then the way I like to do it, and the way I've done it before, is you do, like if it's a triple here, so there's 3 headers. I do 1, 2, and then the third, so I start on as low as I can on the first, the second, and then the third, I'll start at the bottom where I want it, and that one I will clamp down, and I'll go up and over and around the other 2 up to as tight as I can get them all to be wrapped together. That way, and then I'll continue, after I've wrapped all of them together, I'll continue up the final one to the very top. Basically that way you just get the best seal, and it also makes the water kind of come down so that it doesn't get trapped and then rust out the pipe. Okay, all wrapped up. Pretty happy with it. Probably could have gotten a little tighter, but overall I think it's pretty good. So these, normally I would put them back on the bike and run the bike for a while, which I actually might do. I might put the battery back on and run those carburetors till they're empty. Because what you want to do is run this so that the water isn't just sitting, the wet pipe wrap isn't just sitting on the against the pipe for too long. You want it to run it and get really, really hot, and it'll start steaming. And you basically run it until it stops steaming, because that means it's all cooked and the fiberglass is all hardened, and you're all set. I've now got little sparklies all over my pants in the lens here. So I'll probably hook this up to the bike. Yeah, I'm gonna hook it back up, run it until the steam burns off. Alright, so bike update time. I adjusted these headers. I got the pipe wrap all done. Got them all installed. I had to weld some beads around the little retaining clips so that the flange, or whatever these things are called, these like retaining rings, so they would push the headers flush with the mount. So now they're on there very tight, nice, no exhaust leaks, looks good. Also, I just had to remake a little mounting tab for the back here because it was just hanging, flopping. So now it's on there nice and good. I got some 22 gauge steel that I just cut and put some holes in there. That's mounted on there solid. You can see it's not moving anywhere. So just took the carbs off. Noticed there were some screws missing from these clamps, these hose clamps here, and I think these rubber boots are okay. They look, just on visual inspection, they look okay. Obviously took off the filters here, took out the gas tank to get that ready for prepped ready for paint, and now just came out here into the sunlight. When you're doing carbs, highly recommend keep everything very organized. I've done a lot of these, so I'm not super worried, and I'm not going to get too far into it. But got the bowls here. You want to make sure that you don't set these on the concrete or on the bench with the lip down, because you want that to be as smooth as possible so that it doesn't tear the gaskets that are the rubber gaskets. So, or else it'll just leak fuel everywhere. So I'm going to take this last bowl off, and then I'm going to take off the main screws and see what size we got on there, and then also go through the pilots and see if I might need to go up a size on the pilots as well. All right, so got the carburetors here. Just pulled out the old 130 main jets. I've got the slow jets in here. They were pretty gummed up. Right now, this is the top end of the carburetors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking off all the bolts and then just checking the vacuums and shimming the needles if possible. Basically, you have a little needle, if you don't know. You have a little needle that goes up and down as you accelerate, lets in more or less fuel. And that's another way to adjust the air-fuel mixture on your bike. So, going to be taking off all these, setting them in there to clean, checking all the, like I said, all the vacuums, make sure there's not any vacuum leaks, and then, yeah, then it'll be time to put in the new 137.5s. Usually, when you have pod filters with stock jet sizes, you want to go up, at least here in Utah, my experience has been, you want to go up about 3 sizes, which puts us around 137.5. Right, so I've got quite a bit of stuff done on the bike. Been mostly tearing it apart, rebuilt the carburetors. Just waiting in the mail. Hopefully, maybe even today. Tomorrow, should be getting some new jets and a rebuild kit for one of the bowls. Doesn't have a gasket, so that's why it was one of the reasons why it was leaking. So the carbs are basically rebuilt. Just waiting on a few little things. Now, got the bike pretty much taken apart. Okay, so this is mocked up at the moment. The tank is just sitting there. It's not connected. It's going to be, sanded down, painted, all that stuff. The same with the front fender. And so I still have to take off all the controls, or all the gauges, the light, the signals. But I wanted to get the seat with the new tail hoop on here to see what we're looking at in terms of where the cuts are going to be and all that stuff. So that tail loop will obviously be painted black, and you can see how the seat kind of sits on it. I may try to do a bit more of a bend in there, but I also am going to fit the brake light right up in there, so it might make a little more sense. It's also hard to tell exactly when before it's all cut. So you can see there's actually going to be a pretty sizable cut. What I'll probably do is come in here. So I'm going to detab all this stuff. So I'll cut this off. And so what I don't want to mess with the geometry of the suspension. So likely what I'll do is come in here, right there, and make a cut right on the frame right here, and then on the tail, the new tail loop right there, because they make it extra long so you have plenty of space. So I'll probably make the cut right here, and then it'll slide right in there. It's got some little frame slugs, some little slugs that go inside. I've got new suspension. It's here, and I think I'm gonna actually put those on right now. All right, those new ones are on there. Really slick. Just had to pop out the little bushings that were in the new shocks to fit, and then the lower ones fit just fine. Yeah, a lot shorter, definite difference. You know, at least an inch when it's unsprung here, and that's going to be a lot more comfortable to put your feet down to ride. So, new suspension is in. I think next, this is going to be the project here. Taking all this apart, and putting on the new gauges, the new light. I like using the stock mounting location, so I usually try to keep this mounting hardware since it's already got the rubber bushing and all that stuff there already. So keep a lot of the hardware. I am going to keep the stock ignition switch just because I didn't notice any issues with it. So I'd rather just keep the key, the same key that works in the gas tank cap, which I took off right now. But yeah, that should be it. While I'm doing everything, I might respray these levers. No, the other one's off. But probably do both the levers in a new black spray, and yeah, that's it. Then we can move back here, cut off the tabs, cut off that tab. We'll cut off the rear frame right about here. That's what it's looking like. And then we'll fab up the new tail loop. Might go a little bit more aggressive, just heat up the loop. Once it's welded in, I think we'll probably heat it up, and then bend it a tiny bit more to match the curve of the new seat, just because it doesn't quite come up as much as the seat itself does. So probably do that. Oh yeah, that's it. And then more cosmetic stuff. I'm gonna take this off, take off the fender, and probably gonna cut it down, and then paint that with the green. Clean up the engine a bit, some degreaser brush, and blow it out. It's actually pretty clean. Do an oil change, tidy up some of these electronics, rewire the tail with the new lights. Yeah, it's actually not too daunting of a project now that it's all sort of set up. Need to fill up the tires, and then I'm going to drop these forks a little bit, because right now they're at the very tip top of the shocks. So I'm going to drop this down as much as I can. Probably, my guess is it's probably going to go almost as far as I can with the handlebars being right there. So maybe an inch. Similar drop to what was in the back here. So the bike should stay pretty level. Anyway, that's it. All right, on to paint and controls and all that stuff. Well, it's a new day, and I've got a hot cutoff wheel. Just adjusted the front forks here. Got the new bar on just for some fitment stuff. Got the fender off. You can see it lying over there on the ground. And, yep, that's hunks of metal on the ground. Just cut off the back of the motorcycle, basically. So, yeah, that's just sitting there. So, getting ready to put this on. I've got to figure out exactly where I need to measure and cut the new loop. Obviously, that'll involve getting this the new seat all lined up where I want it. But I got a few more tabs and things I got to cut off. And I'm also still debating whether or not to use these seat hangers. I actually don't think I can, now that I look at it and think about it. So probably going to end up cutting off the seat lock and these seat these tabs that hold the I don't know what would you call this, pivot point for the seats. And yeah, so just toss those to the side. Got all that, and then obviously all the stuff's off the front. And I've got this mess of wires that I'm definitely going to be consolidating, trimming, tightening everything up, because it's a huge mess and I don't like it. But got all this stuff. As you can see, drop the front forks about an inch in the front, and then these springs in the back are actually, they might be a little too low. I mean, it's almost impossible to get it up. It's really hard to get it up on the center stand. The ride is actually really comfortable, like the seating position is really nice with those, but we'll see. Carburetor's all rebuilt. I just need to, get some muscle and put it back on, and then that'll be all wrapped up. Yeah, and then it's just rebuilding this stuff and then painting. All right, I just cut some slugs, some frame slugs here, or plugs, whatever you want to call them. They were still very hot from the cutter, from the grinder. So this is going to go here. Boop. But these, once they're a little bit cooler to the touch, I'll pop one in and see what it looks like. So this basically goes in here. Boop. And then you weld them. You weld them in one end. You weld the other. And you've got a nicely supported joint that won't crack as you ride. So you can see how those kind of stick in there, and then you've got your new piece that'll fit on the other side. But obviously you want to weld those in first. So with those, I'll let those cool off. While those are cooling off, I'll remount the carbs, and I think I want to start painting. So I'm going to probably start sanding the tank, the side covers, and that front fender. So I thought this might be interesting. I think there was a tiny bit of a fuel leak coming out of one of these areas around where the tank mounts to the frame here in the back. I think my welder, I was just going to go through and seam weld along here where the mount is. It had all this silicone adhesive on there that was just basically rotting away. So I've scraped it all off here and around under here, and I've got some of this just JB Weld steel stick. I've used this before to fix little holes in gas tanks and things, and it works really well in low pressure, low impact situations that I found. So I'm just going to do a thin bead of this steel stick all the way around here, so that it doesn't leak anymore. Yeah, I think that should do the trick. I've got one of my old wood chisels here that I've been using to just kind of clean up this seam. So it's really nice. You just sort of cut it, and then you mash it together. You'll feel it start to get hot. Until it's basically all the same color. It's like a dark gray. And then yeah, I'm gonna use 2 hands to do this, but basically just like put a thin seam, much thinner than that, but I'll do a thin seam all the way around. Then this, once that is all cured, this will be ready for some just rust treatment, then primer, then paint. All right, so that's all applied. Let's see if you can see under there. I had to get into there with the chisel to kind of push it in, but it's made a nice little protective lip. Pressed it in really hard. You want to press it down really firmly so that it gets in all the little tiny cracks, and if there's any holes, that it fills those up. But that's already, I mean, it's been just a couple minutes and that's already firmed up to the point where it's not really leaving fingerprints. And after about 60 minutes, be good to start sanding. Might wait for a little bit longer. I'm gonna go to lunch. But I'll start sanding, sand the whole thing, top and bottom. I'll do some rust reformer, just a little layer of rust reformer, because there's just a thin layer of surface rust and I just don't want any pitting or anything like that. Then start priming and painting. I'm gonna do that piece. Obviously do the front fender. I was gonna cut it down, but I think I'm gonna keep it full size. And then obviously the side covers that go on the side there to cover up the electronics, and as well as the handlebar, right, like the riser caps. And that's about it. All right, so everything's off the bike. I'm still building the rest of the fender / seat support. I just got to find my metal cutters. So anyway, took all the parts off, got them all sanded down, and first coat of primer on. So obviously, there's the gas tank and the front fender. Looking pretty good. Definitely, both of them will, they'll both definitely need probably another 2 or 3 coats of primer, some sanding in between. And, but those side covers should be pretty much ready to go. I'll give them a light sand with a high grit sandpaper, and then we'll do them green. I'm thinking of doing some kind of stripe on the fender, but then I'd probably have to do it on the tank. No, probably not. Anyway, coming along. I made the cardinal error. I committed the grave sin of putting on the left grip and controls before I slipped on the clutch lever. So, got to take this back off, take that off, then slide this on, and then put those back. But the fitment of everything is good. Got the carbs back mounted. Did just a brief little test fire, just with some starting fluid, and it seems to be good. Obviously, I won't know until I get some actual gas in there and everything done, but slowly but surely, it's coming along. Okay, I just welded up the back end of the seat pan there. It's still super, super hot. Yeah, not bad. Warped a little bit because it's really thin. But I'm gonna obviously go in, grind that all down nice and flat, give it a coat of, I'll probably do some rust reformer on it. And then gonna take off, I wanted to put on the newly painted side covers. But yeah, I'm gonna do a nice coat of black over all the exposed metal, and then it'll be time to put those on. All right, first mock-up. Everything more or less in its place. Haven't cleaned up much, but you can see the basic shape of the motorcycle starting to take form here. The seat, tank, bars, the grips. Still got to figure out where I'm going to mount that tail light. and the turn signals, but that's going to be a sharp bike. All right, that's it for this episode. Got through the major bits of fabrication. On the next bit, we will tackle all the electrical, get everything basically prepped to ride. And I'm guessing by the time the next episode comes out, it will all be done and ready to ride. So thanks for tuning in. Hey, if you want to see this bike finished, make sure you subscribe. See you later.